Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you a trailer music walkthrough of my track Tomb, which was featured in the trailer for The Outsiders. So here we have this beast that is called Tomb. This was part of Elephant Music's Throat 4 album, Throat being, a hugely successful series from Elephant Music, which is I'm very blessed to say is almost entirely me. And here we have it. Here is my track. Now, before I walk through this landscape, I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what was happening and how we got to this point. Now, Throat 2 and 3 have been almost exclusively cellos. Obviously there are other things like drums and things like that, but basically the organic sounds and the signature sounds were created have been cellos. Now, moving into this Throat 4, Vic, Elephant Music, was like, Rich, why don't we try throat singing? So what happened was I was like, okay, yeah, throat singing could work. It's a bit geographical, as in, like, you hear a throat singer, you immediately think of Tibet and the Far East, and the limitations of the instrument are fairly obvious to me. Anyway, so what I did was, before we booked a singer, I started creating everything using my voice, because I was kind of like, oh, is that the brief? So I started doing everything using my voice, which is, as you can see up here, I've got whistle harmonics, which is how I start the track. Me whistling. I've got a bit of a pitch shift going on with octaves in a reverb. So I started sort of creating this track based around, that was pretty much all I had, if I remember rightly. I think I still used the cello and the violin, and I think it was kind of like this stuff, the violin rake. And then I had some other ideas come in. Namely this, which is me just going boom, boom into the mic with a pitch shifter, and then putting it through some delay. And we had a couple of other things like these whistle risers going on. So I'm basically just trying to mimic everything as much as I can with what I have, which is my mouth, my violin, and my cello, which is in another room. And then we got to the recording, and we got this guy called Ilya, who specialised in not just sort of Tibetan throat singing, but throat whistling, and he was a metal singer as far as I'm aware, but he was very interested in world music. So we got him doing other things, which was namely like these bohams. Obviously, what I did was if I can take this off. There we go, you can hear his voice there. So all sorts of Brahms, which I've affected, because when it was all voice, it was so heavily voiced that we thought that it would sort of reduce the placeability of the track. So I tended to treat them differently so that so that they didn't sound so vocal, at least, So then what I did was we went to it, and I just said, okay, I've got these violin things going on here. Yeah, and I was like, can you just repeat that, please, but with your voice? So we started making up these things. Often when I do a recording session with musicians, I will have an idea of what I want them to do, but I will also sort of, whilst I'm listening, I will then say, okay, try this, and then they'll try it, or they'll come up with their own ideas, and sort of, it was quite a natural process. It's good fun. So then, obviously I took the recordings we did and I then shaped it up to about here. So, this is what I kind of essentially got up to. So you can hear all of these string elements. The way Throat works is it's very loop-based writing, and that's why I love it, because essentially what you're doing is you're writing a loop and then you're gradually spreading it out. So you can see the cue. I'm gradually introducing elements one by one, which then essentially loop until a point. Oops. And it's great because it's just textures and rhythms. But it works so well for trailers because trailers are looking for this tension, building, and that's the really key part, building tension. So many of my students, and I think other aspiring composers, fail to see the importance of simplicity. You don't have to have a big idea, you just have to know how to spread that idea and build upon that idea. Because essentially this was my idea. And then I'll just have this. Okay, I'm recording these sounds and then I'm just doubling the speed of the sounds. Adding trailer Brahms in there as well. And then obviously to help bring my cue along, I use my own riser instrument that I've created, which is available on the Trailer Music School, where you can purchase this, or if you're a member, you get it for free. So I use these to add to the extra riser sounds, Great fun. Love a riser. And I want to point something out to you. It's 2 minutes 30 and I haven't used a drum or a drum sample. Okay, I tell a lie. I use these guys. This is all I've used so far. Because the trailers I'm aiming for aren't massive, huge sounding trailers. They are usually small character films, like thrillers or horrors. So there's only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. There's a small ensemble cast. So you don't need this whole huge sounding cinematic thing. And that's the important thing to bear in mind when you're writing your music. When you're writing your music, you need to think about the end point. And this point is freaky, weird, thriller, scary, uncomfortable, horror. Something's terribly wrong. And then we got to this point and I didn't know what to do. So I fell back on one of my favourite things to do, which is, in my final third, add a change. And that change is usually a change in tempo. And I did something slightly different with this one. I did a tempo increase. So obviously, final third, huge risers. And then it's just a huge drum build. Now this is at least a minute longer than most of my Trello cues, because I found myself just getting into it and the tension just kept building and building and building. And before I realised it, it was 3.5 minutes long, which is epic. You may have noticed my drums were out of time a little bit. That's because my computer's struggling to screencast and play the files, which is, a sign that maybe I need a new computer. Some might say yes. So the reason I'm showing you this is because of a couple of things. In the Trailer Music School, we've been working on, this is me and the members have been working on recording our own sounds, and then finding a way to make those sounds grow and grow and grow to build tension. And this track really exemplifies that. It's voices, it's a cello and a violin. That's essentially, some of the sounds. That's me. It's me making noises with my mouth, and you don't need those big sample libraries to do that. Yes, I use the drum libraries at the end, but I only use the drum libraries at the end. I didn't use huge string libraries or anything like that. So what if I could probably have got away with just having I've got LA Modern Percussion there, Hans Zimmer, Spitfire stuff, 8DO's clocks, and Albion. I could probably take the Albion out, but usually on 3 albums I only use the Hans Zimmer percussion, or at least almost entirely the Hans Zimmer percussion. So get yourself a good drum library. That's important, because then you have the chance to get this realistic, epic driving percussion, which is very useful in trailer music. But admittedly, that stuff wasn't used. It was this. This stuff was what was used in the trailer. It was all this intimate, weird stuff, sounding stuff that I recorded myself. And you can do this too. You don't need to fret over, which library do I buy? I've got 7 string libraries, but I just don't feel like they're doing the right thing for me. If you're feeling that, find a way to change completely. Maybe you don't need to do that, or maybe just hire a musician. Spend 50 quid for a couple of hours off, or even a single hour, whatever, how much they're charging, to record some lines over your string libraries, and it will just lift your track. And this is why I think the throat stuff is so successful, because it's real, it's organic, and it's intimate. And because it's me playing, it's usually badly played and out of time, which for thrillers and horrors works like a charm, But the point is, I took minimal ideas with minimal sound palettes, and those limitations became the force to drive the compositional process. I thought, okay, well, I don't want to use horns, so how do I do that? Okay, I don't want to use trillion, so what do? Boop, boop, boop with the pitch shifter. Okay, admittedly I use a cello and violin, but you don't have to do that. You could use a guitar. There's nothing to say you could just crack out a guitar. Find what limitations you have, and see if you can completely strip back your compositional process and learn how to build on a single idea, be it a single rhythm, a single chord, a single progression. Take those limitations and make them your strengths. I'd like to say I think that's what I've done with the Throat albums. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this tutorial and this walkthrough. I certainly did. If you did, please click like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to learn more about writing for trailers, then head on over to the Trailer Music School and join us. Thanks, guys.